Good afternoon. I'm Donna Aliboso. I'm from the Energy Sector Office of the Asian Development Bank, and welcome to our specialized spotlight session for ACE of 2026 on the emerging role of nuclear energy in achieving a sustainable energy future for Asia and the Pacific. Today's session brings together policy decision makers, global technical experts, and regional pioneers to address nuclear readiness, essential infrastructure requirements, and next-generation technologies, such as small modular reactors. To formally open part one of our session on strengthening nuclear readiness, policy, safety, and innovation for sustainable power in Asia, I'm honored to invite the Vice President of the Asian Development Bank for the East and Southeast Asia and the Pacific, Mr. Scott Allen Morris, to deliver the opening remarks.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. It's really it's impressive to see the turnout for this session this afternoon, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome all of you to this spotlight session of this year's forum entitled The Emerging Role of Nuclear Energy in Achieving a Sustainable Energy Future for Asia and the Pacific. Now, of course, we meet as nearly all of the region grapples with an oil and gas supply shock that is unprecedented in scale. And even as countries pursue emergency responses across the region, they are also thinking fundamentally about how best to accelerate their investments in long-term energy security. We are here this afternoon to examine how nuclear energy can contribute to building secure, resilient, and low-carbon energy systems, and how partnerships, institutional readiness, and knowledge sharing can help shape that pathway. Demand for energy across Asia and the Pacific is growing. Countries are seeking reliable, affordable, and yes, low-carbon solutions to meet their growing energy needs. While renewables will remain central to this agenda, there is growing recognition that achieving a stable and resilient energy system will require a more diversified energy mix. In this context, nuclear power is increasingly viewed as an attractive option, particularly for providing dependable, low-carbon baseload capacity. This represents a notable shift for the region. For many years, nuclear power lay outside the energy strategies of most countries across Asia and the Pacific. Today, however, it is re-emerging as part of the policy conversation in a growing number of ADB's developing member countries. Reflecting this shift, ADB updated its energy policy in 2025 to remove the prohibition on financing nuclear investments. This decision does not signal a change in our core principles, but rather a recognition that we must be responsive to country demand while upholding the highest standards. Our role is clear. We will support countries that choose to explore nuclear power by helping them build the institutional, regulatory, and technical capacities required to do so responsibly. Our engagement will be guided by rigorous readiness assessments and strict adherence to international safety, security, and safeguard standards. Since the policy update, ADB has taken steps to operationalize this approach. We are strengthening collaboration with the IAEA and other partners to build internal expertise and support country capacity. That includes working with the World Bank and EBRD to establish a joint platform on nuclear energy. The creation of this MDB platform reflects growing global momentum to expand nuclear generating capacity by 2050, while underscoring the need for more coordinated approaches to policy dialogue, investment support, and knowledge sharing. It will promote transparency and accountability and provide guidance on sustainability, safety, and safeguards in line, again, with the highest international standards. The platform will also serve as a mechanism to help mobilize resources for nuclear energy development. All these efforts are fundamentally grounded in country demand. Here in the Philippines, for example, the country has requested ADB support to strengthen its institutional framework for nuclear governance and safety as it considers reviving its nuclear power program. And in total, 16 countries across the region are actively exploring nuclear power as part of their broader energy transition pathways. As we engage in today's discussion, it's important to emphasize that we approach nuclear energy in a balanced and evidence-driven way. No single technology offers a universal solution. What matters is that countries are able to make informed decisions, grounded in sound analysis, strong institutions, and broad stakeholder engagement. So as we listen to our presenters and panelists and engage in dialogue this afternoon, I encourage you to reflect on 3 questions. First, how can we strengthen institutional frameworks to ensure readiness for nuclear power? How can we deepen collaboration and accountability across governments, industry, civil society, and development partners? And finally, how can nuclear energy contribute to broader goals of energy security, resilience, sustainability, and inclusion? Let me just say in closing, I really am struck by the high caliber of participants in the session this afternoon. So I think all of you are certainly in for a treat in terms of the quality of the discussion. And it does give me confidence that today's discussions represent a unique opportunity to build partnerships and advance practical solutions in the months and years ahead. By working together, we can support countries in making informed choices and, as appropriate, responsibly integrate nuclear energy as part of a diversified and sustainable energy future. So let me wish you all a rich and dynamic discussion and a thought-provoking discussion, I will add. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Vice President Morris, for your thoughtful remarks and for sharing your valuable perspectives. To continue, it is my privilege to introduce our next opening speaker, representing our co-collaborating organization, the International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA. Please welcome the head of the Planning and Economic Studies section of the IAEA, Dr. Henri Bayer.
Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and it's a great pleasure to join you here today at the Asian Clean Energy Forum and to contribute to the opening remarks. Let me start by thanking the Asian Development Bank for convening this discussion at such a timely moment and for the deepening collaboration with the International Atomic Energy Agency. As my Director General recently emphasized in his speech in the opening plenary, this partnership is no longer just about dialogue. It's about delivering concrete support to countries across the region. Asia and the Pacific are at the heart of the global energy transition. This region is experiencing rapid economic growth, rising electricity demand, and pressure to decarbonize while maintaining affordability and energy security. The current conflict in the Middle East has highlighted how important security of energy supply and affordability are to nations in the region. These are not abstract challenges. They translate into real questions for policymakers. How do we ensure reliable electricity 24/7? How do we integrate large shares of renewables? And how do we do all of this at scale and at reasonable cost? The reality clearly reflected in energy planning work is that there is no single solution. Countries will need a diverse portfolio of technologies to achieve sustainable, secure, and low-carbon energy systems. In this context, nuclear energy is increasingly coming back into the conversation. And here in Asia, this is already visible in practice. Established nuclear countries continue expanding their fleets. Others are restarting and planning new reactors. And many countries are now carefully exploring the nuclear option for the first time. Nearly half of the 40+ embarking countries that the IAEA is working with are from Asia. This growing interest is driven by very concrete needs: energy security in a context of volatile fuel markets, reliable baseload power to complement renewables, and deep decarbonization, including beyond the electricity sector. Nuclear is not a competitor to renewables, it's a complement. Together, they can deliver clean, stable, and resilient power systems. But, and this is critical, nuclear energy is not a quick and simple solution. It's a long-term national commitment that requires strong institutions, robust regulatory frameworks, skilled human resources, and sustained political and public support. At the IAEA, we often say that building a nuclear power program is not just about building a plant, it's about building an entire national infrastructure. This is why we have developed the milestone approach, structured around 19 infrastructure issues covering everything from safety and regulation to financing and stakeholder engagement. And this is also why countries move step by step. Readiness is assessed carefully, and international cooperation and partnerships, such as the one that the IAEA has established with the Asian Development Bank, are essential. Another key message is this: good decisions start with good planning. Energy transitions are complex. They involve trade-offs across costs, technologies, infrastructure, and environmental and social impacts. Through its tools and capacity building programs, the IAEA supports countries in developing evidence-based energy strategies tailored to their national circumstances. These include scenario analysis, investment planning, and assessment of how different technologies, including nuclear, fit into the broader energy system. Because ultimately, nuclear should not be assessed in isolation, but as part of an integrated system solution. At the same time, innovation is reshaping the nuclear landscape. Small modular reactors, SMRs, are generating strong interest, particularly in this region. SMRs offer greater flexibility, smaller unit sizes, potentially shorter construction times, and applicability for countries with smaller grids or different needs. While many of these technologies are still progressing towards full deployment, they are already broadening the options available to countries. This brings me to an important development highlighted in this session. The Asian Development Bank is now engaging more actively in nuclear energy following its updated energy policies. This is a significant step because one of the key challenges for many countries is not only technical readiness, but also institutional capacity, access to financing. ADB's role working closely with the IAEA can be transformative in supporting policy dialogue, capacity building, and eventually informed investment decisions. Today's session brings together policymakers, technical experts, industry leaders, and development partners. We will discuss nuclear readiness and infrastructure, safety frameworks and global best practices, advanced technologies including SMRs, and the role of partnerships and financing. But beyond the individual topics, this session is about something broader. How do we move from interest to informed action? Deliver, as my Director General said in his video message yesterday. How do we ensure that when countries choose nuclear, it is done safely, securely, and sustainably? Let me conclude with a simple message. Across Asia and the Pacific, countries are at different stages. Some have decades of experience, others are just beginning to explore the option. But all can benefit from sharing knowledge, learning from each other, and working together. The IAEA stands ready to support you. The decisions discussed this year and in coming years will shape energy systems for decades to come. This is not just about technology, it's about development, resilience, and sustainability. I look forward to the rest of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Payar, for your insights and for helping set the context for the important sessions or discussions ahead. We will now transition directly into our expert presentations. We will begin with a discussion on U.S. policies and strategies for advanced nuclear technology development, including small modular reactors. This will be delivered by Ms. Elizabeth Urbanas, Deputy Assistant Secretary for Asia and the Americas in the Office of International Affairs at the U.S. Department of Energy. Ms. Urbanas is responsible for managing DOE's bilateral and multilateral engagement with Asian and American countries. She is also responsible for DOE's work in several multilateral fora, including the North American Leaders Summit, APEC, and ECPA. Prior to her current position, she was the Director for European and Eurasian Affairs at the Office of International Affairs in the U.S. Department of Energy. In this role, she was responsible for DOE's work in the G20 and G7. Prior to working at DOE, Ms. Urbanas spent 14 years at the U.S. Treasury Department, where she created and directed the Office of Environment and Energy and represented the United States on the boards of several international organizations, including the Global Environment Facility, the Clean Technology Fund, the Millennium Challenge Corporation, and the World Bank. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Elizabeth Urbanas.
Thank you very much. It feels like a homecoming being back at an MDB and being here with Scott, who I've worked with at Treasury, and when he was on the Hill as well, and many other colleagues who I've worked with, both at the Department of Energy and the Treasury Department over the years. I'm so happy to be here. I'm happy to finally, after 20 some odd years working in the United States government, to see these institutions refocusing the multilateral development bank institutions on civil nuclear as an option. I went through the post-Chernobyl period and also the Fukushima period, and I think we've come a long way. And I think a lot of countries that participate in these institutions are ready to take a serious look at civil nuclear. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be cheap, and it's going to require a lot of help for our partner countries around the world. And I think we all need to be working together as multilateral development institutions, our great partners at IAEA, our other partners at NEA, and the organizations that are really carrying the banner forward in terms of nuclear safety and security, and looking at global best practice in the areas of nuclear energy and peaceful uses. But we also need to be working together to make sure that we can have the deployment of safe reactors and safe nuclear energy around the world, in a world where what we are seeing is increasing energy demand at every level. Several years ago, in the United States in particular, we were anticipating that electricity demand was actually going to peak and begin to decline. That is not the story today. And it's the same story in all of our countries. As new technologies have been developed, whether that's AI or hyperscalers, what's clear is that we are going to be needing more energy around the world to be able to support our lives and our technologies and the things that make our lives go well and be easy. And these are things that not only the most developed countries need to be able to have, but all countries need to be able to share in. And so it's good to be talking here today about that. The United States government has been very supportive of civil nuclear and its development around the world. We've worked with many of our partner countries here, ADB countries in particular, worked with you in multilateral fora, bilateral fora, to try to create the right environment in your countries and our country in the United States, so that we can have more civil nuclear deployment, and we can develop the environments in countries, including our own in the United States, to make that easier and more affordable. And you're going to hear a lot of detailed conversations after me about what some of the strategies and some of the models are that are used around the world. But I'm going to talk today a little bit about the United States, because the United States is having, and I don't like to use this word because it's been used before, a nuclear renaissance. I think you see that a lot in the media. Now, we were also having a nuclear renaissance at the end of the George W. Bush administration as well. And that one didn't go so well, at least for the United States. But I do think right now in the US and in other countries around the world, and many of our partner countries here, we are seeing not only renewed interest in the deployment of civil nuclear technologies, but I think a more focused approach to actually making that happen. And some of what is going to make that happen is some very exciting technological work our research and development, particularly in the area of what we call advanced reactors, so small modular reactors, microreactors. And I want to talk a little bit about the U.S. contribution in this area. And it is not one, many of the things I'm going to talk about are some of these technologies are things we've developed with other countries like Japan or Korea or others in the room. So they're not all things that the U.S. is doing on their own. But I do want to highlight that the U.S. has a particular approach and a particular system that has led to a point where we are right now in the United States, where we have more than a dozen small modular reactor designs that are going to be commercially deployed by 2029, 2030. And we have several designs in microreactors, one of which actually went critical the day before yesterday, the Antares reactor. If you don't know what goes critical means, it means that chain reaction that you get with fission. It means that chain reaction has occurred and it is self-sustaining. It continues to go on. And that's what you need to generate heat and generate electricity. And so we will see 3 more reactors in the United States, small modular reactors, go critical by July 4th, which is our 250th anniversary. So that's very appropriate. And that is something I wasn't sure that I was going to see 15, 20 years ago. We've been talking about small modular reactors for decades. And like other technologies, maybe CCUS, I think is one too in the energy sector, people are always asking, when is it going to happen? When is it going to be commercially viable? When am I going to be able to have this? And I think we're closer now than we've ever been. And a lot of, I don't want the US to take too much credit, but I think a lot of the work that has been going on in the United States and in other partner countries has really spurred things in the technology sector to actually become deployable. But not just that, but the technologies being developed in our countries. We talked about AI, we've talked about supercomputing. It's those technologies that are also creating the demand for this. And at the end of the day, will help make these cost-effective and deployable for everyone. So just to talk about the US model a little bit, first thing I'm going to say is that I work at the Department of Energy in the United States, and it is not a normal department. It's not a normal energy ministry, if you've ever worked with us. It is, quite frankly, a ministry or a department that has a very strong science focus, a very strong research and development focus, and what really comes out of the Manhattan Project. So it really grew out of our work at the end of World War II in developing fission capabilities. And from there, if you saw Oppenheimer, it's my favorite movie to refer people to if they don't know what the Department of Energy is. But the movie Oppenheimer talks about the development of the first nuclear weapons. But it talks about all these different universities and laboratories that were working on the project together to actually bring this about. And all of those laboratories still exist for the most part, and they are the basis of the 17 national laboratories upon which the Department of Energy's nuclear and research program as a whole is based in the United States. It's a tremendous asset, is the crown jewel of research and development. We have the largest science budget and research and development budget of any agency in the United States government. NASA does a lot better job explaining to people what they do and making it sound cool, but they only have 2 labs, so go figure. We also make their propulsion systems for most of their satellites and spacecraft. We will be working on the propulsion system for the Mars mission that is upcoming in the next couple of years. So it's fascinating, and we have lots of nerds. I wouldn't say we have all of them, lots of them, and a lot of the folks that work in our laboratories come from your countries, and they come from all around the world, and we're lucky to have them. What the US model advocates for is working from the lab base to develop technologies that can then be passed to the private sector. And then we rely on the private sector to commercialize those particular products and be able to deploy them. And then we help, particularly overseas. We help a little bit with that. And we don't do it alone. We do it with a lot of the partner countries here in this room. So as I described, what generally happens is that there's funding provided by the department itself. domestically to the laboratories to pursue specific scientific research that may be paired with other kinds of funding. We developed something interesting, and I'm going to tell you something that none of the small modular reactors that are being looked at today to become commercial are anything new. Most of them are designs that we looked at, a lot of us, different countries looked at, starting in the 60s and 70s, and even before that. And so these are technologies that we analyzed, we looked at. They weren't fit for purpose for what we needed when we started deploying larger reactors. But now, as we've worked on them over time, it's clear that they have specific uses that are going to be very effective for the world we live in today. And so along that path, our laboratories have been continuing to work on these and working with the private sector. And that has led to a wide variety, particularly right now in the United States, of small modular reactor designs. We have several different kinds, different flavors. They have different types of fuel. Some are better for, if you're looking for heat generation, some are better for steam. And the market will, to some extent, decide, with a little help from funding from the federal government. I think the one thing I want to highlight in particular is that while people get very excited about our reactor program, and that sounds really great, what's also important is the fuel cycle. And that is something that the US is investing in as well. We've awarded funding this year on the order of $20 billion to develop enrichment and reprocessing, and also to work on the development of creating the fuels for reactors, which is a key. Also, as part of that, that's called the front end of the fuel cycle. We're working very hard on the back end of the fuel cycle, which has been a difficult challenge for the United States. You may have heard of Yucca Mountain. It's a very large hole in the ground. We're decommissioning it, and there are some buildings for sale if you're interested. But we are now working with a variety of states to look at recycling, which is not something we've done with fuel. I mean, that's something that you see in Europe in particular, and in Japan to some extent as well. But we are looking at recycling and reprocessing and long-term disposition so that we can reduce the footprint of the nuclear waste in the United States and around the world. So I just wanted to highlight some of that, and then to highlight that, you know, we do work with our partners overseas. IAEA is here. We talked about the NEA. They're absolutely critical. The International Energy Agency we work with as well. And so we support technical assistance around the world, and you're going to hear about the areas where, you know, a country needs to build itself to be able to maintain a safe and secure nuclear environment. So that's workforce development, it's safety and security and protocols and those sorts of things. Going through the milestones of the IAEA program is extremely important, and we support that with IAEA and others through funding and support. But we also support exports. And right now, if you're interested in learning more about small modular reactors, is a really good time to talk to us, because right now is the best time in my 26 years of working in the United States government in terms of being able to access financing for the export of US commercial products in the civil nuclear space to countries around the world. Right now, the US Exim Bank, that's our export-import bank, is the most forward-leaning on funding exports in the civil nuclear sector that I've ever seen. We have several projects that are ongoing now around the world, including in places like Romania and Poland. And we also have the Development Finance Corporation and the Millennium Challenge Corporation that are also now beginning to finance civil nuclear. So it's a great opportunity to work with us. And I, again, want to highlight, not all of the reactors are just US. So many of them are joint, like the GE Vernova Hitachi BWRX reactor. And so, you know, we very much encourage thinking about this in your space, because we want to work with you as you're looking at your energy mix and economic growth going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Urbanas, for enriching today's session with your expertise in U.S. policies and strategies. Next, we turn to our host country to gain regional insights on our next topic. To share a presentation on DMC's perspectives on nuclear power development, Please welcome Dr. Rowena Cristina Guevara, Undersecretary of the Department of Energy, the Republic of the Philippines. Undersecretary Dr. Guevara supervises the Renewable Energy Management Bureau and the Electric Power Industry Management Bureau of the Philippine Department of Energy. Prior to this role, she was a Professor 12 at the Electrical and Electronics Engineering Institute of the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Dr. Guevara previously served as a President and CEO of the National Transmission Corporation and as Undersecretary for Research and Development of the Department of Science and Technology, where she led the DOST Science for Change program, which received the United Nations Public Service Award in 2022. Her government service spans over 40 years, including serving as the Dean of the UP College of Engineering from 2004 to 2010. She has received several awards in engineering, education, and public service, including the 2010 Metrobank Outstanding Teachers of the Philippines and the 2018 Coward Carey Executive Service Presidential Award. May I now invite Undersecretary Guevara to the stage, please.
Mr. Scott Morris, Mr. Henry Pailere, fellow speakers, government representatives, industry and utility leaders, members of the academic and research community, colleagues from finance and philanthropic institutions, and partners from civil society. Magandang hapon, good afternoon. I'm here to provide a brief snapshot of the Philippine perspective on nuclear power development and, in the process, help guide our direction forward. This slide shows the Philippines' installed capacity as of December 2025. Coal accounts for about 41% of installed capacity and remains the dominant source of electricity at 56.6%. Renewables follow at around 33% of capacity. And this is why the country pursues nuclear energy to reduce dependence on imported fuels and improve energy security amid rising demand and price volatility. Under the Philippine Energy Plan 2023 to 2050, the country follows a reference scenario and two clean energy scenarios. CES 1 includes 1,200 megawatts of nuclear by 2032 and up to 4,800 megawatts by 2050. By 2050, nuclear is projected to supply about 9% of generation in a diversified low-carbon mix. Since Executive Order 116 in 2020, which established the Nuclear Energy Program Interagency Committee, or NEP-IAC, and EO 164 in 2022, which affirmed the national nuclear position, the nuclear program of the Philippines has steadily gained ground. Nuclear energy is now integrated into the Philippine Energy Plan 2023 to 2050. The Philippines targets its first nuclear power plant by 2032 at 1,200 megawatts and up to 4,800 megawatts by 2050, depending on system needs and policy direction. To support these objectives, the government has established a nuclear energy program roadmap with clear, time-bound milestones. This year, efforts focus on strengthening regulatory foundations through the Philippine Atomic Energy Regulatory Authority, or PhilATOM, and initiating the first nuclear power plant license application. By 2028, the program transitions towards construction with coordinated implementation across stakeholders, supporting long-term expansion under the Philippine Energy Plan. The NEP-IAC was created to implement the nuclear program and organize the 19 IAEA infrastructure issues into 6 subcommittees. It includes 24 agencies chaired by the Department of Energy and vice-chaired by the Department of Science and Technology. Subcommittees cover energy planning and finance, safety and security, legal framework, stakeholder engagement, siting and environment, and fuel cycle and waste management. Over 6 years, the NEP-IAC has advanced key policies and systems. EO 116 and EO 164 were established. Safety and safeguards frameworks were strengthened. The PhilAtom law was supported. Public engagement and workforce initiatives were expanded. Environmental and emergency planning improved, and fuel cycle and waste readiness progressed under IAEA review. In 2024, the NEP-IAC refined the program in line with IAEA recommendations and long-term energy goals. An Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Review, or INER mission, assessed progress since 2018 and readiness for Phase 2. The Philippines has fully addressed 9 of 14 recommendations and 10 of 13 suggestions, reflecting steady progress in infrastructure development. As the nuclear energy program moves forward, there is a significant opportunity to develop innovative and sustainable financing approaches that can support the long-term deployment of nuclear energy. The NEP-IAC is exploring models such as public-private partnership, or PPPs, vendor-supported arrangements, build, own, and operate schemes, and consortium structures to optimize risk sharing and attract investment. Remember, in the Philippines, investment in generation is by the private sector, not the government. It is also evaluating contracts for difference, or CFDs, and regulated asset base, or RAB model, to improve revenue certainty and strengthen bankability under robust governance. Workforce development is another national priority. The Philippines has a strong base of engineers and technicians, including those working in global nuclear projects. The NEP focuses on strengthening this through training, curriculum alignment, hands-on capacity building, and international cooperation. Initiatives include IAEA-supported workshops, professional training programs, and university symposia to build public understanding and develop future talent. At present, the country is building our nuclear-specific workforce base. While there is strong general engineering talent, nuclear specialized personnel remain limited, with fewer than 10 nuclear engineers and fewer than 40 regulators at the DOST Philippine Nuclear Research Institute. This reflects a historical gap in education and institutional continuity following Bataan Nuclear Power Plant suspension and long-term reactor shutdowns. To address this, academic institutions are expanding nuclear-related education. Initiatives include nuclear science programs at the secondary level through the 16 campuses of the Philippine Science High School, the DOST's Project and STEP Plus. At the tertiary level, the University of the Philippines, Diliman, Technological University of the Philippines, University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines, Bicol University, IRIST, De La Salle University, and Mapua University are integrating nuclear-related courses, research, and graduate programs, including medical physics and nuclear engineering pathways. Government-to-government partnerships are also in place to support the nuclear energy development of the Philippines. Key agreements include the DOE's TESDA workforce training, Saskatchewan Clean Energy Cooperation, the US 123 Agreement for Peaceful Nuclear Cooperation, the KHNP studies for the Bataan Nuclear Power Plant, training in Hungary, energy cooperation with Russia. These partnerships support capacity building and technology exchange. International academic cooperation is also expanding. The Philippine Commission on Higher Education has partnered with Ontario Tech's Brilliant Energy Institute for Energy Research and Skills Development. The Commission on Higher Education and TESDA also collaborate with University Network of Excellence in Nuclear Engineering to strengthen nuclear education and workforce training. In parallel, we are moving into infrastructure planning. We turn to the site selection criteria for the new nuclear power plant. Site selection is guided by strict technical criteria. These include geological safety, reliable cooling water access, and proximity to transmission infrastructure. Initial assessments identified Bataan, Masbate, and Palawan as potential sites, each offering a balance of stability, resources, and readiness. Detailed environmental and social assessments will follow. To succeed in the Philippine nuclear energy program, we must focus on some critical priorities, and this is our ask of our development partners. Strong collaboration across government, industry, and academia, alignment with international safety standards, workforce development, public communication, and sustained global partnerships for knowledge and technology exchange. We have also prioritized the following. Number 1, characterization of potential sites. Number 2, analysis of laws affecting nuclear power plants and plans for enactment or amendments as appropriate. Third, study of grid system covering reliability and compatibility with nuclear power plants. And fourth, survey of local industries and technology partners and the development of a national policy for industrial involvement in nuclear power program. The Philippine Nuclear Energy Program represents a carefully studied and steadily advancing national undertaking guided by safety, strengthened by partnerships, and anchored in our commitment to long-term energy security. Through continued collaboration, we aim to translate policy into progress and build a safer, more reliable, and sustainable energy future for the Filipino people. Thank you very much, and we will sustain positive energy throughout the day.
Thank you, Undersecretary Guevara, for providing that essential country-level perspective on the Philippines' nuclear roadmap, financing options, and workforce development. We now invite Dr. Henri Payer back to the podium to present on 2 foundational topics, from scenarios to solutions, energy system planning in practice, and the 19 infrastructure issues associated with developing nuclear power and the global best practices. Dr. Payer has over 29 years of experience in the energy sector and joined the IAEA in February 2020. In his current role, he leads the agency's analytical work on the economics and financing of nuclear power, its contribution to sustainable development and climate change mitigation, and the IAEA capacity building support in energy planning. Prior to this, he worked at the OECD Nuclear Energy Agency in Paris as senior analyst and deputy head of the Division of Nuclear Technology Development and Economics. His previous experience also includes roles at the Alstom Power Company and the French Alternative Energies and Atomic Energy Commission. Let us welcome Dr. Payer once again.
So hello again from me, and I will have two consecutive presentations. The first one is an opportunity for me to talk about energy planning, which is an essential step before identifying nuclear power as a potential option for a country. And it's also an area where we have an established collaboration with the Asian Development Bank. So energy planning is about mapping future scenarios and transitions towards sustainable, low-carbon, secure energy systems. And we know that the future and the energy systems will become more and more complex. And so energy planning becomes an essential part of the journey towards nuclear power, if nuclear is a solution that countries will consider. We think that all low-carbon technologies will be needed, including renewables, abated fossil fuels, storage, grids, and for some countries, nuclear power. We need to assess how the technologies complement each other, how they integrate within future energy systems in an area where energy demand is electricity demand is likely to increase due to electrification and new needs like artificial intelligence and data centers. Also, we pay attention to the nexus between climate, land, energy, and water. All these areas are increasingly linked, but they're not necessarily accounted for together. They depend to different sectors, but the sectors are coupled. So the IAEA has an established capacity building program for energy planning that has been in place for several decades. And we've pioneered these activities. We've supported our member states in energy planning for decades with a number of tools, trainings, support for studies. But what I would like to stress is how, for us, national expertise is essential. It's really building capacity in the country so that the countries can take ownership of the energy planning capabilities. So the IAEA capacity building program on energy planning rests on 3 pillars: analytical tools, training and support. And our analytical tools are also free for all our member states. Information, dissemination, and technical assistance for energy studies. We have a suite of tools that we provide for free that span the whole spectrum from energy statistics, energy balance, energy demand modeling, energy supply modeling, macroeconomic impact assessment. And to give you an order of magnitude of the trainings that we have done in 2025, we carried out 58 training events, trained almost 700 professionals from our member states, from 96 member states. So it's quite an extensive capacity building program that we do in partnerships with many organizations, including the Asian development banks. Besides the tools, we have frameworks for assessing energy systems. One is, I mentioned it, the Climate, Land, Energy, Water Nexus. But also we have one that's quite important in today's discussion about nuclear. It's the SCA, Strategic Environmental Assessment Framework for National Nuclear Programs. And the SCA is a systematic process to integrate all environmental considerations into the early stages of developing a nuclear program. So it's not like an environmental impact assessment, which is linked to a project. It's a higher level assessment at the program level. We recently updated our SCA guidelines. We had a workshop earlier in April, and this is a service that we will provide to member states in the coming years. In terms of long-term planning with the Climate, Land, Energy, Water Nexus, there's some text missing from this slide, but just to say that we have a very large regional project in Latin America and the Caribbean, and we're looking forward to the possibility of having a regional project in this part of the world around energy planning and the Climate, Land, Energy, Water Nexus. Examples of applications and support to member states in energy planning. So we've supported a number of countries, and you have a couple of pictures showing reports and studies that were made by the member countries with the IAEA support on long-term energy and electricity strategies, on nationally determined contributions, on financial and environmental implications of energy strategies, etc. One recent and still ongoing work we do is in another part of the world. We're supporting Africa's Continental Master Plan. This is a project under the African Union Development Agency, and there are 2 modeling partners in this project. One is the IAEA, the other one is IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency. IRENA uses some of our energy planning tools. And this is about building an integrated electricity pool. You have today 5 regional electricity pools in Africa, and this is a long-term planning up to 2063 of an integrated electricity system. So I mentioned that collaboration and cooperation and partnerships are really essential for our capacity building program. And you have here a few logos of the organizations we work with in the region, ADB, but also ESCAP. And we've organized workshops together, training events. And I'd like to give you some examples of the work we have done with the Asian Development Bank over the last couple of years that have been focused on trainings for our energy supply optimization tool message, and more recently, the energy demand model MAD. So it started in 2023. We had trainings for Southeast Asia and Central and West Asia countries. In May 24, I think the first one was in Jakarta. Then in May 2024, we had a training in Dhaka in Bangladesh for South Asia countries. September last 2 years ago, a training for the South Pacific countries in Fiji. In September last year in Bangkok, we had the first energy modeling platform training for Asia and the Pacific, and we provided message training for the ADB DMCs. And earlier this year, we had a regional training workshop in Sri Lanka on the energy demand tool MAD. So really, this is an opportunity also for me to thank ADB for supporting this work together. There is a specific initiative that I would like to also mention, an energy planning initiative, but dedicated to assessing the role of nuclear power. This is the Atoms for Net Zero initiative, which our DG launched at COP27 a few years ago. And this is to assess the role and the contribution of nuclear power in the country's transition scenario studies. What we had observed was that nuclear power was not always well represented in modeling scenarios. And we wanted also to take full advantage of the potential role of small modular reactors in supporting these countries' transitions, including electricity supply, but also, as Elizabeth Urbanas has mentioned in her presentation, about delivering also other types of applications like heat, for example. So we've been building and ramping up this Atoms for Net Zero initiative, and you have a couple of reports that have been issued over the last couple of years that you will have the links to. And to give you some examples of work that we have done with the member countries. So in Europe, Estonia, which is an embarking country, that has been looking at the potential of introducing small modular reactors for both electricity and district heating. And more recently, we have worked with China, with the China CINIS think tank, the CNNC, and also we have worked with Singapore, with the Energy Market Authority of Singapore, as it assesses the potential contribution of nuclear power. So now let me slide between energy planning towards the milestone approach and the support that the IAEA provides to embarking countries, and in particular through the 19 infrastructure issues associated with a nuclear development program. So just a few figures also just to have a clear idea of what nuclear power represents today globally. We have 31 countries that are operating nuclear power. At the end of this year, Bangladesh will be connecting its first nuclear power plant, so we'll have 32. In total, this represents a little less than 9% of the global share of electricity, but about a quarter, a little less than a quarter of low carbon electricity generation globally. So what are the drivers for an expanded role of nuclear power. So this is something that we have observed, and many of you, and the fact that this room is quite full, I think there's definitely an interest in nuclear power. And what we can say is that the drivers really also depend on national priorities and circumstances. But recently, security of supply, grid reliability and resilience are very strong drivers, and they're very much linked to economic development aspects. For some countries, it's nuclear's contribution to low carbon generation and sustainability attributes. It's the ability also to integrate large shares of variable renewables into the grid, bringing reliability, bringing inertia, voltage control, frequency control, and also from an economic point of view, realization that having nuclear in the mix can also decrease the overall cost of the energy transitions. This is a discussion around system costs. And in the future as well, the possibility for nuclear to provide more than just electricity, but also heat to decarbonize industry. There's also interest in nuclear to replace retired or retiring coal plants. There is work that we have done on coal to nuclear transitions for the G20 South Africa presidency a few years ago. And very much in the everyday news, data centers, artificial intelligence, and the demand for electricity, and how nuclear can support 24/7 clean energy demand. We will be releasing a report later this year on the nuclear and AI, so I will invite you to have a look at that. Why are we optimistic on the growth of nuclear power and the expanded role of nuclear power? Is that beyond the 31 countries that are operating nuclear power today, most of these, nearly all of them, are actually planning to expand their fleet. But there's also embarking countries. We're working at the IAEA with over 40 countries, and nearly half of them are in Asia, the other half in Africa. This gives us confidence that there will be development of nuclear power beyond the 31 countries. Just also for your information, I mentioned Bangladesh that's finalizing the construction of its first nuclear power plant, but Turkey and Egypt are also in the construction phase. So for countries that are looking at the nuclear option, it's really a long-term commitment. A successful nuclear program will cover a period of at least 100 years between the preparation, the construction, the operation, and then the decommissioning and the management of the waste. It requires strong leadership, a strong public support, a national positions, and of course the highest standards of safety, security, and safeguards must be applied. And this is a message that the IAEA really echoes when talking to embarking countries. So we have this program called the Milestones Approach in the development of national infrastructure programs. We've updated this this approach based on the experience of the countries that have embarked successfully on nuclear power in recent years. For example, the United Arab Emirates. We've also looked at how these milestones approach and the infrastructure issues apply to small modular reactors compared to large reactors, because initially the milestone approach was for large reactors. So I mentioned the milestone approach is really a journey for countries in different phases. The first phase is that's fed by all the energy planning studies, is when the country considers the nuclear option. And milestone 1 is when the country decides that it will launch a nuclear program. And then there's a long phase of preparation that will end when there's a successful bid for the construction of a nuclear power plant, the first one. That's milestone 2. And then phase 3 is the construction of the first nuclear power plant. And the whole phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 can last for 10, 15 years, depending on the circumstances. So behind those phases, we have what we call the infrastructure issues. There are 19 infrastructure issues that are on this slide. It includes provisions for nuclear safety, legal framework, like conventions, nuclear law, safeguards, the establishment of a regulator, work on the electric grid, human resource development, which is also a very important aspect, stakeholder engagement with local communities, with the local governments, and so on. Emergency preparedness and response. So really, there's a lot of work to be done by countries to address all of these 19 infrastructure issues. And the IEA has introduced also this review process called the Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Review, or INER, in emissions. They are conducted at the request of a member state with international experts and IAEA staff. And the first stage will be a self-evaluation by the country of the 19 infrastructure issues. And once the country has completed the self-evaluation, then there is a proper INER mission to the country that makes recommendations. And the Secretary of the Philippines explained the recent work that was done in the Philippines with the latest INER mission and the success in addressing many of those 19 infrastructure issues. Safety standards are a very important part of establishing a framework for operating nuclear power plants safely. So the IAEA, one of its major mandates and missions is to establish these international safety standards. So countries will establish their own national standards, but very often based on the IAEA safety standards, which are well recognized across the work. And there's a hierarchy of safety standards, from safety guides, safety requirements, safety fundamentals. So a country embarking in a nuclear program will find a lot of resources at the IAEA to work on these on the safety framework for establishing a nuclear program. And this is work that a new regulator in a country will also need to fully absorb and develop. Which are the key organizations in a country in terms of the milestone approach? Well, the government, of course, and there's a body called the NEPIO, which is a very important body. It's the body that will carry the main responsibilities in the phase 1, but not necessarily the organization that will operate the nuclear power plant at the end of the process. But all organizations are important: the Ministry of Energy, the Ministry of Environment, security authorities, the grid operator, and so on. So key activities in phase 1, starting from the energy planning studies, where the country has decided to look at the nuclear power option, is to establish this NEPIO and to work through the first 19 infrastructure issues. And at the end of this period, which can last several years, there is this INEA mission phase 1, and if successfully addressed, the country will be ready to move into phase 2. Phase 2 is the preparation of a project, and it will contain all of these slides. And I'm sorry because it's not so easy to read the vertical lines, but there's a programmatic activities, but also project activities, because phase 2 is about a project, including at the end of phase 2 the invitation to invite for a bid or negotiate a contract. And phase 3 is all the development and the construction of the nuclear power plant, which finishes by a INEA mission phase 3, when the country is ready to operate the first nuclear power plant. So just a few information about the interests of countries in the region. So I mentioned we are working with over 40 countries, but in orange, phase 1, 2, 3, you will see the countries in these are Asian countries operating or embarking on nuclear power, but the embarking countries are in the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And then there are countries also in pre-phase 1 that have not yet decided whether or not nuclear is a potential option for them. Bangladesh is in a phase 3, constructing their nuclear power plant. In phase 2, Vietnam is probably leading in the region. They restarted the nuclear program that they had postponed or cancelled in 2016. Philippines is also in phase 2. And then other countries in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, are also looking at nuclear power. So it's a lot of work for the IAEA to support all of these countries, and we really appreciate the support from the US and Japan and other countries in helping provide assistance to countries in the region. And it also gives me the opportunity to mention that in beginning of November, together with the US, we will be organizing a workshop on financing of small modular reactors for countries in Southeast Asia. And this event will be held in Bangkok. So please look at the IAEA website or contact me after the ASEF, so I can provide some information about this workshop. So, but thank you to the US for supporting this event. Recent and future INEA missions in Asia. So we had in 2024 the INEA phase 1 follow-up mission, INEA phase 2 in Vietnam in 2025. INEA phase 1 follow-up mission in Sri Lanka. And coming up, we have a phase 2 INEA mission in Uzbekistan, a phase 3 in Bangladesh for the end of the year, just before the planned start of operation of the Raipur nuclear power plant. We also have a phase 2 in Kazakhstan. And closer to here, perhaps, INEA phase 1 mission in Singapore is planned for the end of 2027, and other countries in Asia, but not in Southeast Asia. So I mentioned that we looked at how the milestone approach, which was initially developed for large reactors, how it applies for small modular reactors, because a lot of the interest for countries in the region is for small modular reactors rather than large reactors. But all in all, the established milestone approach really remains largely applicable to small modular reactors. The infrastructure requirements are similar, but possibly smaller than for large NPPs. And some elements can be downscaled. So we believe that the time frame for readiness of infrastructure could be shorter than for large reactors. So this is also good news for countries that are looking at nuclear power with small modular reactors. But we're, of course, looking forward to the commercialization of the designs and the progress that's been made in the US, the criticality of several of the experimental SMRs is something that's good news because it is true that the nuclear community has been talking about SMRs for a long time, but now it's coming, and it's not just us saying. The International Energy Agency, Dr. Fatih Birol, is really saying that nuclear is back, and also they're analyzing this role for SMRs in the coming years. So a few takeaway points from my very long presentation, and I'm sorry. I hope it was interesting, but we see nuclear's role becoming larger in the coming years. The production of electricity will increase. We see in our high case projections a near tripling of capacity by 2050. The milestone approach is really the right framework for embarking countries. It covers the whole nuclear program. There are these 19 infrastructure issues that are important important infrastructures for countries to consider. It's applicable for both large and small modular reactors, and we will continue to update it and refine it. And we're there to provide support to embarking countries. There's a lot of resources that you will find on the IAEA website. So I invite you to look at that. Well, I see the 5 minutes, but I actually finished. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Payar, for the insightful presentations highlighting the essential frameworks and tools for energy planning and nuclear readiness. And to close the first part of our presentation segment, it is a pleasure to welcome Mr. Hideaki Iwasaki, Director General of the Sectors Department 1, covering energy and transport sectors at the Asian Development Bank. He will present on exploring nuclear energy, ADB's emerging role in policy, safety, and infrastructure readiness. Mr. Iwasaki is a Director General for Sectors Department 1 of the ADB since February 2025, overseeing operations in the energy and transport sectors. He has more than 35 years of professional work experience, including more than 23 years at the ADB. Prior to his current role, he was a Deputy Director General for the Pacific Department, guiding country programs and projects for 14 Pacific developing members. He was formerly ADB's country director to Thailand and twice served as transport sector director for the Southeast Asia and Central and West Asia regions. He started his career at ADB as a project engineer, working on transport projects for Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, and also spent time in Myanmar during 2012 and 2013 to re-establish ADB's in-country presence and infrastructure sector work. Before joining ADB, Mr. Iwasaki worked for the government of Japan for 12 years in transport, flood risk, water resource management, and regional programs. DJ Hide, may I invite you to the stage?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining this session, and also thank you very much for joining ASF this year. We heard a lot from our previous speakers. We heard from the US, which is the leading technology provider. And actually, many things to do with nuclear, I think they came from the US. Then we heard from the Philippines, which is one of the embarking countries and reviving its nuclear program. And we heard from IAEA, which set standards and processes and in the source of a lot of knowledge and experience. And now I'm talking about our emerging role. So what is this emerging role? Before going to that, I will just touch upon the context. Our energy sector operations, we have a vision of an inclusive, just and affordable low-carbon energy transition in Asia and the Pacific. And the mission, I'm not going to read out, but we are talking about energy security, sustainability, resilience, good governance, and deployment of innovative technologies. And this is through regional cooperation and integration. And overall, this is to maximize development impact. This is coming from our energy policy. I'll just go to the existing energy policy as was approved in 2021. This is what was approved. Again, I'm not going to read out, but this is still guiding our operations. And very recently, last year, we reviewed our policy and made some changes or adjustments. And key areas are basically to support the diversification of and responsible critical minerals value chains, which are important for energy transition. And all the things we talk about now, AI, digitalization, critical minerals play a very important role. And supporting methane emission reduction, and also using the depleted gas and oil wells for CCUS storage, carbon capture and utilization and storage. This was necessary because otherwise, as part of the policy, we are not allowed to deal with upstream gas and oil projects. Then another point on the right-hand side, and probably which is the most significant change, is the addition of nuclear power as part of our financing options. And as previous speakers mentioned, this is to address the need for decarbonization need, and also position nuclear as an option in the overall energy mix. And of course, as IAEA amply presented, nuclear investment has to come with a lot of considerations for safety, security, and also non-proliferation, because this comes to nuclear materials. So all these considerations should come in before we support any nuclear investments. Just again, going back to the energy sector operations, our focus will remain unchanged fundamentally. And our assistance should we embark on for nuclear power would be also in this context. So I just want to highlight that. But as we know and we heard from some of the speakers, there are changes in our DMCs, which are driving energy sector changes, and those changes would also include consideration for nuclear power. DMCs are seeking dependable low-carbon alternatives to replace aging coal-fired power plants or other fossil-fired, fuel-fired plants, and nuclear power is recognized as one of the options. And reflecting this, some of the DMCs have changed their national energy strategies or policies to include nuclear power. And also we heard from IAEA there have been a lot of developments on the front of new generation of reactors development, both conventional and small modular reactors. So these are driving the changes which make DMCs consider nuclear power as an option. Then I'll touch upon what ADB is now doing in terms of partnerships. Last year, the Energy Policy Review was approved by our board on the 24th of November. And on the following day, we signed an MOU with IAEA. This is the picture from the signing from Director General Grossi and our President Kanda. And this MOU will cover these three areas, and we are now working on work program over the next 2 years. Also, as you would know, other MDBs are also changing their policies, or if their policy already allow nuclear investment, they are embarking on new financial and technical assistance and on nuclear. And there's a joint platform being developed among EBRD, World Bank, ADB, and EIB. This may also include some other multilateral development banks. And this was just launched. And the purpose of this is basically to enhance cooperation, coordination, knowledge sharing, but also not to duplicate efforts, because we have common shareholders. So in their eyes, we should try to economize, and collaborate effectively to complement each other. And also, ADB is working with bilateral donors. We are considering to sign an MOU with METI. Then the emerging role, probably our focus will be on safety, readiness, and capacity, because these are the areas where our DMCs would need support. And as IAEA presented, actually there are tools, and basically there's a knowledge base, and also technology providers can provide many of them. But then the question is how they can be accessed. There, we believe we have a role to play. I'm just presenting the same 19 infrastructure areas. A lot of things have to be covered. And some of them, even preparing for the institution or human resources to be able to embark on nuclear investment would require a lot of financial resources. So there may be a role for us to come in. Just look back on how we have been working on nuclear-related matters. Actually, some of the trainings we conducted are in partnership with IAEA. And in 2025, we signed an MOU with IAEA. And now we are operationalizing the MOU. And internally, we established our steering committee and working group. This is still internal. But this is, one is to have a focal point within ADB. Currently, it's housed in the front office of the Energy Sector Office, but we will need the network of staff in many parts of the bank in dealing with various readiness matters, policy and strategy, and regulatory reform, and human resource development, and eventually will go on to technical feasibility study. All these would require a lot of coordination internally and also with fellow MDBs, which may be also embarking on similar initiatives. One thing I would like to highlight, in all of this, our Office of Safeguards would play a critical role. And since ADB financing is eventually going into, hopefully, OSFG's or our environmental and social safeguard requirements should apply, and how they will be applied. This is something we need to closely work with IAEA and other MDBs to come up with a common approach. Our safeguard requirements would not be compromised. And also some of the areas, probably one aspect is strategic environmental assessment, which is not really a requirement by a policy, but would be really necessary if a country embarks on nuclear investment. After all, probably the key role ADB is expected to play would be to provide financing. And as I said, initially ADB's role will be to provide resources for human resource and institutional capacity development. And this would require TA resources, but most of the time, the country would probably have to borrow to even prepare their capacity and institutions. For example, for someone to have a degree in nuclear science or PhD, that would cost a lot of money. And also, there must be a mechanism to retain the trained people in the institution, which would be eventually becoming NEPIO or the entity to actually implement the projects. So this would require financial resources. And also in country, if you want to establish educational institutions which can teach those subjects, again, they would require financial resources. We have colleagues working in educational sector. We'll also work with those colleagues to look at this aspect. And probably I shouldn't have used constraints, but requirements would be the rigorous readiness assessment and full compliance with the IAEA 19 infrastructure issues. We'll be relying on this framework as well as the three-phase approaches. And we would also work with donor to develop the required funding sources for TA and also eventually for investments, we would need probably larger financial sources for us to be able to help TMCs embarking on nuclear power. This is what I prepared. But in closing, I would just like to mention that on technologies, our our energy policy is neutral. So eventually, it's the DMC's decision. And DMCs, we should be helping them to make informed decisions, looking at economics and financial, technical, and all other aspects. And should they decide to embark on nuclear investment, we would be ready to provide support. Thank you.
Thank you, DG Hide, for outlining ADB's emerging role and targeted strategies. So we will now take a break for 30 minutes for a coffee and networking session with refreshments served outside auditorium. Please return to the auditorium by 4 p.m. for the part 2 of our session focusing on advanced nuclear technologies. So we may resume on time. Thank you and please enjoy your break. Welcome back. We will now move to our afternoon technical presentation segment focusing on advanced nuclear technologies. Our first speaker for this segment is Mr. Laurent Fabre, Head of Business Development for New Nuclear Project Development for Asia at Électricité de France, or EDF. He will speak on lessons learned from France's nuclear program and France's technology solutions for SMR projects. Mr. Laurent Fabre has worked for more than 25 years for the EDF Group. He currently heads the business development activities in Africa, Asia, and Canada for International Nuclear Development Division of EDF. In this capacity, he developed extensive experience delivering training and strategic support on the fundamentals of nuclear energy, with strong focus on capacity building for newcomer countries. He previously held various operational and managerial positions in the development and construction of gas-fired and nuclear power station projects, including the Hinkley Point C in France, French overseas territories in the United Kingdom and Poland. Back in France, he served as head of group procurement coordination before working on the development of EDF's nascent electric vehicle charging business. Joining us online via Zoom, please welcome Mr. Laurent Fabre.
Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to attend remotely this session, and I'm very glad to see the momentum growing in Asia in favor of nuclear. But as you said, before diving into SMRs and AMR, I took the liberty to step back and revisit the French nuclear program in the 70s and late 80s. Not out of nostalgia, but because it remains one of the few large-scale rapid nuclear deployment never achieved. And what it shows that is that success was not driven by breakthrough technology alone. In fact, as you will see, technology was relatively standard. The real differentiator were industrial strategy, standardization, governance, skills, and long-term commitment. When it comes to nuclear, technology is only the visible tip of the iceberg, and history reminds us that everything below the surface is actually what truly determines success. So you can move them into the next slide, please. Yeah, and the next one, please. So back in 1973, it rings a bell because at the time, the world faced an energy crisis with the oil and gas price going through the roof, and at the time, the Prime Minister launched a very bold initiative aiming at deploying massively nuclear energy in France at scale. So the key drivers were, of course, energy independence and support also economic growth. So plan was actually divided and implemented in 3 phases, and with a strong focus, as I said, on the standardization of technology. So first phase was the initial development of the organization and the PWR. Then the program reached its peak in the 90s with what was the real construction period. So at the time in France, more than 5 gigawatts of nuclear power plants were commissioned each year. And at the end of the 90s, we have completed the construction of 58 reactors, and the focus shifted to the full development of a comprehensive fuel nuclear cycle and the export of this technology. So you can move to the next slide. So at the end of, please move to the next slide. So yeah, the end of the 90s, I mean, France has become one of the largest, I mean, nuclear, I mean, energy producer in the world with 58 reactors, and the French program at the time was seen as a model of centralized, I mean, energy planning, and it shaped as a consequence the energy independence. What were I mean the key outcomes of this program is, first of all, I mean, there was like a significant positive impact on the economy with a stabilized electricity price and low price, one of the lowest price in Europe. I mean, supporting the and providing a competitive edge, I mean, to the industry. So it's created also, I mean, thousands of jobs. Right now, we employ, I mean, more than 200,000 people in the industry. France is still able, I mean, to export electricity to its neighboring countries. So last year and the year before, I mean, we exported more than 90 terawatt-hour of clean energy to our neighbors like Germany and Belgium. And the French, I mean, nuclear expertise was exported, I mean, to several countries such as, I mean, South Africa, South Korea, and China. As a consequence, also, France, I mean, has developed a very comprehensive nuclear ecosystem with also like a full and comprehensive nuclear industry, mastering the full nuclear fuel cycle. And also, last but not least, France has one of the lowest carbon emission in Europe, thanks to this nuclear fleet. And right now, it stands out with the Nordic country with one of the lowest emission in Europe, with less than 30 to 40 grams per kilowatt hour. We can move them into the next slide. So about, I mean, the key lessons learned we can draw from this experience. Yeah, you can move to the next slide. So I'll start. So one of the key ingredient for this success were definitely the standardization of technology. So France adopted a fleet approach based on standardized PWR, I mean, reactors technology, allowing only incremental change to increase the reactor size and the safety performance. So you can see definitely a link in between all in the different standard of and size of reactors. Also, what was key is also a very strong commitment of the state. So it was a program which was led by the state, supported by a long-term vision and a strong leadership. And also the key ingredients was the role of EDF in this in the industrial delivery. So EDF was like the industrial architect of the program, and under this umbrella of EDF, I mean, the full supply chain was, I mean, totally dedicated, I mean, to the support of the program. And as you know, I mean, it's very important to say that nuclear requires skills to be efficient and needs, I mean, continuity. So as I said, I mean, in this slide, I mean, one of the bold example of this support, the government, I mean, of France, I mean, decided, I mean, to preserve only one kind of reactor, the PWR, against actually a technology was developed, I mean, domestically. We can move, I mean, to the next slide. So about, I mean, the key lessons learned, but maybe we'll talk about that and during, I mean, the Q&A and the panel, I mean, later on. So what are the key ingredients for the success of a nuclear program? It requires, I mean, a careful public engagement and management based on full transparency. And of course, I mean, a strong role of the and a robust regulatory, I mean, framework. It requires also like a long-term vision and the necessity of a long-term in waste solution and decommissioning strategy. And I will finish with that. It's also one of the key enabler is, of course, to work, together with the international, community through partnership with other countries. So I mentioned the PWR technology, which was derived, from the Westinghouse, license. But at the end, EDF was and France was able, to develop a full self-reliant and independent industry, and also, a strong collaboration with countries like Germany and Belgium at the time on the uranium enrichment and reprocessing and joint reactors construction project. So I will move to the second part of my presentation and talk about what we're doing with respect to SMR and AMR technology. So we can move to the next slide. So within EDF, we believe that SMR is part of the solution alongside large reactors, because we see this momentum I mentioned earlier in Asia, but also across the globe. And depending on the different scenario you consider, but there's definitely a space for the market tells us that there's a space for nuclear and SMR specifically. But what we see also, and the market tells us, is also there's the very strong need for heat energy. So not only the focus of EDF when it comes to SMR is to focus on electricity generation, but also on providing solution for decarbonization of the industry. So you can move to the next slide. So that's the reason why our goal is not with a new word, which is the name of our PWR SMR, is not only to generate electricity, but to develop a multi-energy platform which serve the industry and utilities, which is backed on when it was leverage the existing proven technology, with only key changes: simplification, modularization, and prefabrication. So we're leveraging those three key features. We're also working on with an established supply chain. So of course, the French supply chain, but also we want to get the involvement of neighboring industry partners from neighboring countries such as Ansaldo Energia and Tractable. So this is definitely key for us to use a supply chain which is available, which has experience and have immediately available capacities. And also one of the key features, we can move to the next slide, is definitely to develop a solution which shall use the recycled uranium, and also to be able to generate not only electricity, but offer also the alternative to produce heat which can be used for district heating, but also for the industry. You can move to the next one. So you have the next slide. You have a snapshot of the ecosystem we want to build thanks to this multi-energy platform. Please, you can move to So basically, the center of this multi-energy platform will be this reactor, which can be coupled to heat district, providing steam to the industry or for a town, or potentially provide high temperature for the hydrogen electrolyzer. So the aim is to have a reactor which shall be modular enough, to build the plant in 48 months, but of course, in parallel, to meet the highest safety standard. You can move to the next slide because time is ticking. What we're doing also is from day one, we have a bottom-up approach when it comes to harmonization and standardization. So we wanted to have the regulators involved as early as possible to provide us with some feedback and with the goal of having a design which could be fit for purpose in many regulatory framework. So that's why over the last 4 years we worked during phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 now, with 8 reputable regulators in Europe, and this is definitely very valuable for us. To develop a design which is fit for purpose and can be licensed in different countries and in different environments. And in turn, also it offers a very good platform for those regulators to be exposed into SMR technology and to discuss together and exchange good practice with their peer. You can move me to the next slide, and I will finish with this one. So it's a view of what New World will be. So first of all, it's a PWR, so leveraging the proven technology, but encouraging, of course, modularization. So our goal is to have 60% of the equipment to be manufactured in factories of site, aiming at. Sorry, yeah, you can move back to the. Yeah, move back to this slide with to build them in this power plant in 48 months. So based on that's very important for us. It's been established ecosystem with existing capacity, and also based on proven and sustainable fuel cycle, so able to fully leverage the existing fuel cycle industry, and also to use recycled and reprocessed uranium and MOX fuel. So in turn to decrease the consumption of natural uranium by a factor of 20%, but also to decrease the volume of very hazardous waste by a factor of 5. And I will finish with the last slide, which is basically to provide like an overview of what's going on in France. And I'll talk at length about New World, because this is the reactor we are working on within EDF, but under the umbrella of an initiative called France 2030, the French state is supporting the development of other technology, SMR and AMR, based on PWR reactors, but also on advanced technologies such as sodium-cooled or lead-cooled fast reactors, or even molten salt reactors. So, and I will finish my presentation with this slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fabre, for that insightful presentation on France's technology solutions and the strategic frameworks driving the deployment of advanced nuclear technologies. Moving to our next technical overview, the next presenter is Mr. Satoru Yasuoka, Director of the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, Japan. He will present on nuclear energy policy in Japan, Walk with Newcomers. Mr. Yasuoka is a Japanese government official responsible for international nuclear energy cooperation at the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, where he has served as Director for International Affairs in the Nuclear Energy Policy Division since 2022. His portfolio includes Japan's nuclear energy engagement with more than 40 countries. He has contributed to key international initiatives, including the G7 Sapporo 5 Statement on nuclear fuel supply chains and the Nuclear Energy Tripling Declaration launched at the COP28. At METI, he has worked to redesign Japan's nuclear capacity building program for newcomer countries in Asia, aligning it with the IAEA's 19 infrastructure issues and integrating lessons from Japan's post-Fukushima experience in safety upgrades, plant operations, and stakeholder engagement. From 2017 to 2020, he worked at the Nuclear Infrastructure Development Section of the IAEA's Department of Nuclear Energy in Vienna, supporting newcomer countries in developing nuclear power programs. he was responsible for activities related to industrial involvement and local content development for new nuclear power projects and designed and implemented country-specific support programs for countries including Indonesia and Sri Lanka. Let's welcome Mr. Yasuroka.
Okay, so I'd like to express my deep appreciation to ADB for organizing this timely, important session, Iwasaki-san, with other colleagues, and all the distinguished participants for being here today. So I'd like to briefly introduce Japan's nuclear energy policy and explain why Japan is ready to work with Asian newcomers. So firstly, this is a very basic, our philosophy. So this means we sometimes call the triple breakthrough. So Japanese policy staff always keep in this mind. This means economic efficiency, energy security, and environment, always based on safety, especially nuclear energy policy. So safety is a foundation. With Japan experienced the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear accident. Without safety, there is no sustainable use of nuclear energy. So this is a basic mindset of us. So this is a track record of historical track record of power generation by sources. Dark blue represent nuclear. So Japan is a notoriously energy scarce country. According to the IEA data source, Japan's energy self-sufficiency rate is only around 13%. Sometimes I envy US, for example, like over 100%, I envy Urbana-san. But so Japan is now facing on our challenges. So historically, Japan rely on heavily imported fossil fuels, now still rely on, and also on nuclear power. So as this diagram shows, before the Fukushima accident, nuclear power accounted for around 30% of Japan's electricity generation. But after the accident, public acceptance is lower. So the share of the nuclear dropped sharply. So this is a very important part of our story. And since the Fukushima accident, as I said again, so public acceptance has become a central issue in Japan. And our approach has been a step by step. So then the big things happened in the 2023. Former Prime Minister Kishida announced the GX policy, so-called Green Transformation Policy. So we regard the nuclear power as one of the enabler to meet with carbon neutrality. And our latest strategic energy plan presents an indicative outlook for 2040 power mix. The latest number is 9.4% share in 2024. And in that outlook, nuclear accounts for around 20%. And Japan sees the nuclear power as the key realistic option for achieving both decarbonization and energy security. But compared to the before the Fukushima accident, it's still like a practical number we are standing on. And this is a map of the nuclear power plants operating in Japan. So now 15 reactors. So the number of the operating reactors is gradually so increased, including Kashiwazaki Kariwa nuclear power site. And also but still 3 reactors already passed review, but still need to stakeholders engagement, the permission by local governors. So we need to keep on our effort. So then coincidentally enough, last Friday, Japanese government announced indicative outlook for nuclear replacement needs. So it suggests that by 2040, Japan may need 2.2 to 5.5 gigawatt of replacement capacity. So this is roughly equivalent to around 2 to 5 large-scale nuclear power plants. But justification is this is not fixed target. This is just indicative outlook, but this is very significant outlook for us because Japan is now discussing a more long-term role of nuclear power more explicitly, including by 2050s. And this slide also, reflects the latest update of the Japan's nuclear energy policy. The first pillar is a precondition for long-term nuclear use. So this means a continuous safety improvement, of course, stakeholder involvement, public communication, always first. So for Japan, this is a very starting point. And second pillar also showing so echoing the other country, digital AI use is try to let the nuclear needs. And we try to make an effort for higher capacity factors, efficient operation and maintenance, and longer operation, try to as much as possible. And third one, so we already commit to develop and deploy advanced reactor, generation 4 reactors. So this is very important for our long-term policy. So as I said, Japan is now considering the nuclear power plant replacement at a decommissioning site. And the Japanese government, METI, also working toward a demonstration project of advanced reactors in the beyond 2040s, sodium-cooled fast reactors or high-temperature gas-cooled reactor. And also the fourth pillar is very important also. We must not forget, back end is very important. So we are now toward complete the closed fuel cycle. So this fiscal year is expected to complete the Rokkasho reprocessing plant and also the MOX fuel plant. And also the steady and smooth decommissioning, waste management, final disposal is very, very important. And fifth pillar is to improve the investment environment, also needed. Supply chain skills, another point. So because a nuclear project require very large upfront investment and a long-term project. So then we need to make a nuclear project more bankable. We need a bankable policy framework. So in that sense, METI is now considering the implementing various policy effort, like a framework that can support long-term investment or corporate PPA with off-takers, and also the financing syndicate loan by public institutions. So we need, anyway, robust industrial basement. And sixth one is very connected to my presentation. Japan, as a responsible to contribute to the solving international issues, especially for Asian newcomers. So this is very, very important. And this, you already familiar with this slide. So echoing the Henry-san, IAEA milestone approach is very important guideline for embarking country. But Japan is re-embarking country. That was just a few hours before. So with the coffee, Henry-san told me. So Japan is now re-embarking. So Japan also need to this milestone approach. So we need kind of a timeline in 1 decade or sometimes 2 decades. So then now, based on 19 issues, Japan is now tackling common issues as safety, financing, stakeholder engagement, and human resource development. So this is very important for us. So next, sorry, I wanna try to make a. So please, could you please moving next slide? Or maybe suddenly end of my presentation. If so, yes, I try to be time punctual, but recorder said so. Sorry. 終わっちゃった. Okay, but that's okay. So my left slide showing a lot of okay, that's it. A lot of the pictures. So how Japan, this is very important slide. So why Japan is also runner with Asian newcomers. So we can provide a tailor-made capacity building approach. We can host technical tours. We can sometimes dispatch ad hoc missions to your countries, or rather than that, so we can consider more practical support for SMR deployment. And this is a lot of the track record. So we already had more than 2 decades history to be receive technical tours, laboratory tours, or so decommissioning site tours, or sometimes the PR center tours. So that is based on your intention. And this is also sometimes a collaboration with US government, with sometimes a managed tour with multiple newcomers. And this is a summary. So Japan is ready to work with you. So energy transition take various pathways, especially in the nuclear. So we respect your attitude. And so please rely on Japan's experiences, sometimes painful experiences. Japan has a lot of the experiences. I know nuclear projects are never easy, but because of that, I am here. We are here to help Asian newcomers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Yasuroka, for detailing Japan's core nuclear energy policy pillars and for highlighting your readiness to support and walk alongside Asian newcomer nations. Our next speaker is Mr. Daisuke Koike, Group Manager of the Project Group Global Project Department within the Nuclear Power Plant Project Center Nuclear Energy Business Unit at IHI Corporation. His presentation is entitled Technology Solutions for SMRs and Large-Scale Nuclear Projects. IHI is a Japanese heavy industry conglomerate with expertise in nuclear engineering and in the fabrication and installation of nuclear power plant or NPP components, radioactive waste treatment facilities, and decommissioning. Mr. Daisuke Koike has nearly 20 years of experience in the nuclear industry, including project management and engineering for maintenance of operating NPPs in Japan and for the supply of components to NPPs overseas. In recent years, he has focused on small modular reactor projects, including technology development and project management activities. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Daisuke Koike.
Okay, thank you for introduction and thank you for giving me this opportunity to present today. And I'm Daisuke Koike for IHI Corporation from Japan. Then today, firstly, I would like to introduce our company, who is IHI. Then also we explain about our nuclear business. Then next topics is our main topic. So I would like to explain our some example of our past activity related to technical solution for SMR and large-scale nuclear project. Then firstly, we'd like to explain a very overview of our company. IHI is a global company with a 20 overseas business development bases. Then our company is established in 1853 as a shipbuilding company. Then now we are expanding our business. Then we have 28,000 employees in over the world. Then we have 4 main business areas. One is for energy, including nuclear. Then second one is industrial systems, such as automobile turbocharger. And the third one is air engine and space and defenses. The last one is the social infrastructure, such as bridges. Then the next slide shows our medium and long-term growth scenario, especially for energy business. With growth electricity demand increasing, also expectation for nuclear rising again. To meet this demand, we are expanding our capability and capacity that supply key component for both SMR and large-scale nuclear project. This is an overview of our nuclear business. Our nuclear business is started from 1955. That is very early stage of nuclear power plant in Japan. Then for nuclear power plant, we supply the key component for both BWR and PWR
such as a reactor pressure vessel and a containment vessel. For a nuclear power plant in Japan, we also provide some maintenance services. Then for nuclear fuel cycle plant, we have a strong technology for vitrification for high-level radio waste. And we supplied a key component for these facilities. Then for decommissioning, we have supplied some, we conducted a design and supplied the component for remote equipment for fuel debris removal on the Fukushima power plant. Then to expanding our nuclear business, we decided to enter SMR business, such as a NuScale SMR, that is for a US-based SMR developer. Then we invested in NuScale Power via the Japan team, not only IHI, also other Japanese companies. Then we conducted some joint technology development between Japanese company and NuScale. Then we also established a relationship with other multiple SMR developers. Then from this slide, we'd like to explain some example of our activity related to technology solution for SMR and a large-scale nuclear project. Then we'd like to divide it to the two main categories. One is for technology development, and the second one is establishing a common technology platform to support our technology development. And for technology development, first one is example is material development. If we use a new or special material for a new reactor build construction, in that case, we develop and test for that kind of new material. Then we also evaluate material performance under specific service and environment condition. Then we build using this test data, we build a test database. Then we can choose the best materials and the condition for each nuclear product. The second example is a manufacturing technology development. Before starting a nuclear component, we develop some manufacturing method for new component, such as welding technology and inspection technology. Then we also design and make a special manufacturing tool for welding and inspection. Then that's developed technology and developed equipment will be verified using mock-up testing that demonstrated the actual materials and the actual manufacturing conditions. Then for application of the advancing manufacturing technology is one of the option to improve the productivity and keep quality more consistent. For example, for manufacturing point of view, electric beam welding or 3D printing is one of the options. Also, to improve the productivity, automation and robotics is also important. And for modularization and construction method, standardized modular construction enable continuous production. That means save the cost and shorten schedule. But that module quality is key to the overall plant construction. And this modularization method has been applied several large reactors in the past. We think there are many lessons learned. Then for future project, we need to apply that lesson learned to the future project. Then keep design and the fabrication and the construction closely linked is very important. For example, for us, we collaborate with a construction company. Then we make a mock-up then to develop design of a module for easier manufacturing and installations. Then seismic safety is one of the critical issues in Japan, also many Asian nations. Then if we introduce the reactor developed in the overseas, in that case, that design may require to modify of a plant based on the seismic conditions.
It should be optimized. In that case, it is optimized seismic design and for building reinforcement, and it may be necessary. And seismic isolation is also one of the options to meet the seismic safety. And from this slide, we explain about the common technology platform for first time is a manufacturing workforce development, or securing and training people with a special skill to make a nuclear component. It is very it is necessary for a future nuclear project. Then that skilled worker can eliminate the safety and the quality risks from the inexperienced staffs. Then maintain a strong workforce that can support a future nuclear project, and also keep improving its skill. That's also important. Then, for example, we have a technical training center in our facility. Then we train our worker. Then also test it our workers. Then we make a nuclear component. Then, if design and fabricate of a nuclear component, it is necessary to establish a quality management system that meets international nuclear standards, such as ASME NK-1 or something. But its quality system should be established step by step. So it is, for example, IHI has a boiler factory. Then we are now qualifying a boiler factory as a nuclear product manufacturing factory. We are conducting this QA management system establishment step by step. Our supplier development is also important for a nuclear project. Rely on a very wide supply chain from material and also some component valves, or also for a manufacturing point of view, also production equipment is also necessary, like machining tools, welding tool. That is also important supply chain. Then we conduct some collaboration activity, R&D activity with a supplier. Then we provide a chance to the supplier to join actual project and strengthen their scale and capacities. Then localization is also important to develop a nuclear manufacturing or in Asia. Cooperation between a global supply and a local industry is necessary. Then build long-term partnership and gradually shift worker to a local company by capabilities. Okay, that is summary. For SMR and the large-scale nuclear power plant are both essential to the Asian clean energy transition. Today, I explain about our engineering and manufacturing companies' perspective. We provide some example of our activity related to the technology solution for SMR and the large-scale nuclear project. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Koike, for giving us a closer technical look at modular component fabrication. So to conclude our technical presentation segment, our last presenter is Dr. Sang-Won Lee, Director of the SMR Department Development Laboratory at the Central Research Institute of Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Company Limited, or KHNP. His topic today is Korea's nuclear technology development and regional cooperation. Dr. Sang-Won Lee graduated from the Department of Nuclear Engineering at Hanyang University in 1995 and completed his PhD in nuclear engineering at KAIST in 2019. He joined the Korea Electric Power Research Institute in 1997, performing fluid system design and safety analysis for the APR 1400, contributing to its design certification from the Korean regulatory body in 2002. He then moved to KHNP, the government-owned sole nuclear utility in Korea, serving as technical manager for the APR 1400 US NRC-TC project, securing design certification in 2019. He currently works as a director of an innovative SMR development project funded by the Korean government. Under the 12 Basic Plan for Electricity Supply and Demand, he is responsible for the project to construct the first ISMR unit comprising 4 modules, leading to the practical implementation and commercialization of Korea's next-generation nuclear reactors. He is also the vice chair of the Thermohydraulic Division of the Korean Nuclear Society. Please welcome Dr. Lee to the stage.
Thank you. First of all, I'm very honorable to have a chance to present in this valuable meeting. So I'm, as he introduced, I'm Sang-won Lee, and the KHNP is the Korean Seoul Utilities, government-owned Seoul Utilities in Korea. And I'm talk about the Korea's Nuclear Technology Development and Regional Corporation. First of all, KHNP provide 32% of electricity nationwide. Most of them is nuclear, and just 1% is hydro. On the other hand, renewables in Korea is about 10% right now, but the government want to increase the renewables to about 30% within 10 years. So the early retirement of coal is predicted. And installed capacity is 21%. Our asset is $51 billion, and the credit rating is very stable right now. We have 26 units in operation, and 4 is under construction. Most of them, you can see the map. Most of them is coastal area because the seawater can be used as heat sink, so it's very economically feasible. So most of them is the coastal area. Since 1970 to the right now, we continuously construction. So we have very solid and robust supply chain. So we have, right now, there is also 4 units is under construction in Korea. As for global project, we export the UAE Barakah in 2009. And also last year, we export 2 units to Czech Republic. So this is the current status of Korean nuclear industry. And the next slide is, we are moving forward to the ISMR, innovative SMR. We are now developing, I'm in charge of that development. So, yeah, I skip it. I want to say why SMR is so popular. I can say 3 important things. One thing is safety. SMR is safer than conventional reactor based on the safety assessment, or about 10,000 times or something like that. So more safe reactor is compared to the conventional PWR is ISMR. So that's one of the reasons of the popular. Second thing is, it was a problematic before, affordability. But it's safe, but it's very expensive. Then the customer hesitated. So the second thing is economics. So lower investment cost and the shorter construction period can make it affordable. So we try to do that. Final thing is flexibility. In Korea case, solar energy and wind energy increase gradually until from the 10 years ago from now on. This figure shows actual data. So as you can see in the dot curve is different. In that case, in the daytime, coal fire was shut down and gas plant was shut down to maintain the appropriate level. But the ISMR is basically provide the electricity, but we try to make it a hydrogen production and local heating and desalination can be possible. So surplus power can be used at daytime in other field, and the nighttime you can use the SMR as electricity supplier. So this project was initially led by KHNP, and right now the government is supporting our project. And then final goal is we will build this ISMR in Korea 2035. The government decided to build this plant in Korea 2035. And right now we are bidding for the site. So site will be decided at the end of this year. So final is regional cooperation. KHNP overseas business site map is in here. There's in the Asian country, India, Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, and Singapore is interested in the ISMR. So we have a MOU or feasibility studies ongoing. If they want to introduce that, prime contractor is we, KHNP, and heavy equipment will be provided by the Doosan Enability, and the construction will be provided by Samsung or Hyundai. So we have a very robust supply chain. If the customer needs it, we can provide the localization plan also. So for financing, equity financing can be possible with the Korean government-owned organization, and for that financing, not only government-owned finance bank, the private bank is very interested in the investment, so we can provide this kind of structure. Finally, for embarking country, technology, human resource, regulatory framework, collaboration, knowledgeable customer, and fund is very important. So we can provide all of these things because we already have some collaboration with the UAE and the Czech Republic. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Lee, for detailing Korea's next generation modular advancements and emphasizing the value of regional partnerships. We will now move to our panel discussion session. The panel discussion will be moderated by the Senior Director of the Energy Sector Office of the Asian Development Bank, Dr. Priyantha Wijayatunga. Dr. Priyantha has over 39 years of professional experience, including 17 years in the ADB. He served as a director of the South Asia Energy Division and chief of the Energy Sector Group prior to assuming his current position in June 2023. Before joining ADB, he served as the founder director general of the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka and a senior professor of electrical engineering at the University of Moratuwa, where he is currently an adjunct professor. He has extensively contributed to the areas of energy policy and regulation, energy planning, and clean energy development. Dr. Priyantha holds a doctorate in power systems economics from Imperial College London, where he was also a regular academic visitor from 1993 to 1998. He has previously served as chairman of the South Asia Forum for Infrastructure Regulators and was a member of the board of directors of the Ceylon Electricity Board and the Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority. He was an advisory board member of the Melbourne Energy Institute at the University of Melbourne, is a fellow of the Institution of Engineers Sri Lanka, a senior member of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, a chartered electrical engineer, a member of the Institute of Engineering Technology, and a past president of the Sri Lanka Energy Managers Association. Mr. Priyantha, could you come to the stage, please? May I kindly invite each panelist to join us on stage as her name is called. Ms. Elizabeth Urbanas, Deputy Assistant Secretary, USDOE, Dr. Rowena Cristina Guevara, Undersecretary, Department of Energy, Republic of the Philippines, Dr. Henri Payar, Head of Planning and Economic Studies Section, IAEA, Mr. Hideaki Iwasaki, Director General, Sectors Department 1 of the ADB, Mr. Satoru Yasuroka, Director, METI Japan, Dr. Sangwon Lee, Head of SMR Development Laboratory at KHNP, Mr. Daisuke Koike, Group Manager, IHI Corporation, and Mr. Laurent Fabre, joining us via Zoom, Head of Business Development, New Project Development of Asia at EDF.
Good afternoon. We have half an hour for the panel discussion, and it's quite a big panel, as you can see here. Anyway, you have listened to them already. So what I thought was, since we have only 30 minutes, including questions and answers from the audience, I will have only one question to everybody. That within a minute or so, each and every panelist, distinguished panelist, can tell us exactly now. You already listened to how the government, the U.S., like the developed countries like U.S. and Japan work when it comes to nuclear, and then countries like Philippines, the DMCs like Philippines, what their expectation is in terms of nuclear power development. Then you listen to the technology providers and what kind of technologies are being looked at when it comes to nuclear and how they're being developed, SMRs and all that. Keeping all these things in mind, I would like to ask each panelist what the audience can take away when you go back home, advise your own governments or your utilities, what they should be doing in terms of nuclear power development in your respective countries if you are to develop nuclear power, or if you would like to develop, or you advise the government to develop nuclear power, or not to develop nuclear power. What kind of feedback you can give, and in 2 minutes each. Let's start from that end. Yes, from KHNP. Sorry, from IHI. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then I mentioned in our presentation that my company is like a manufacturing and engineering company, or key component in our perspective, or like make a nuclear project is successfully. It is important to the role of our like our company is make a concept translated to the design. It can be built or can be manufactured in the real. That is our company role. That is a very important thing. We think that also some of we also presented this our presentation for workforce development or supply chain is explained, and localization is also mentioned in our presentation. Then such kind of phased approach and gradually shifted the work to the localized, that is contributed to the local industry development, also public acceptance. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Let me now switch to Deputy Assistant Secretary Elizabeth. From your viewpoint, what should be the takeaway for the Asia Pacific countries?
Yeah, so I think for countries that do not have nuclear energy and are going to embark on that journey with the rest of us up here, I think it's important to be realistic and patient. A nuclear power project is extremely complex. It can often be political. It will take a long time, and it will probably be expensive. And that means a lot of issues are going to come up politically, financially, And it's going to be important to be patient and play the long game, because when you do enter into this relationship, and when you do become a country with a nuclear energy, it takes a large commitment, but it is a long-term marriage. In the United States now, we are looking at 80-year lives for our nuclear power plants. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is issuing life extensions to 80 years now, and there's talk of 20 more beyond that. So this is a long-term proposition. It's a long-term investment, and it's worth the wait.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Beth. Let me now turn to Undersecretary Rowena to give the developing member country perspective in terms of expectations and what can be taken home. Yeah.
Thank you, Priyanka. In the last 40 years, the Philippines mothballed the Bataan nuclear power plant. Not a single kilowatt hour was used. But in the next 40 years, we believe that nuclear energy is part of the energy transition. It will be used both for energy and for advanced ancillary services as we get massive variable renewable energy into our grid. Our target for renewable energy is 35% by 2030 and 50% by 2040. We're currently at 25%. What we have seen in the last year with our green energy auction, in the last 2 years, we were able to offer and we were able to get 20 gigawatts of renewable energy committed in the next 5 years. And this year, we're holding 4 green energy auctions for another 10 gigawatts of renewable energy. With all of those coming in, nuclear energy is going to be necessarily part of our power system. Our hope is that with our international partners present here, the technology providers, and of course, our development partners, we think the next 40 years is really possible with nuclear energy.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this very optimistic view, and which is fully supported by, I'm sure, the technology providers. Thank you. Thank you very much. And let me now turn to Director Satoru-san. Your message to the audience.
Yes, I'm more than happy to echo the totally 100% Urban-san. I don't need to say anything. But so, yeah, it's tough, never easy. It's like a long-term marriage, tough time with sometimes painful experiences. And also, And anyway, not only just embarking country, actually, even in operating country, actually, I worked with IEA or also IAEA. So we really interesting. So when it comes to the financing issues, some countries choose cost for difference or regulatory asset basis. In Japan, like more based on the corporate loan. So try to avoid the cost overrun. But so very various approaches. There's no silver bullet. And also applicable to, I believe, the embarking country. So strategy should be depending on the kind of the industrial basis, non-nuclear basis, or human capacity, development, progress, or electric grid maturity, or like that. So you should grab your own strategy or find out your pathway. So this is my small suggestion to all of them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is Laurent online already still? Laurent,
yes,
it's your chance to tell the audience what they should take away.
Yeah, it's a very good question. And definitely, if I have only one single message that everyone that need to take home today is that, nuclear energy is powerful. It's a strategic tool, for achieving sustainable prosperity, but it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. And collaboration is key to finishing the race. So if I can break that into 4 takeaways, I would say first and foremost, it's definitely a unique solution to tackle the energy trilemma. It goes without saying. And definitely that's an opportunity for the country of the Asia Pacific region to sustain rapid economic growth and solving this trilemma. But the second point is definitely a dose of realism, as stressed by my colleague from the US. Definitely brace yourself because it's a long-term commitment that demands meticulous planning. So it's one of the most complex and significant national infrastructure projects you can imagine, and you can undertake it. It's not a quick fix. It takes, up to 10 or 15 years. Actually, even longer. And so setting realistic expectation is very critical for the success. It prevents, I would say, political cycles from derailing from a multi-decade project. It ensures that safety and security, which are absolutely non-negotiable for nuclear power, are embedded in the program from day one. And acknowledging, I would say, the long-term nature of the project is not a weakness. It's the hallmark of a responsible and mature nuclear program. Third point is about also the dose of realism about the role of the governments and policymakers. So embarking on the nuclear program is not a commercial project. It's a sovereign undertaking that demands a whole of government approach. So of course, private sector can bring innovation, efficiency. But the sheer scale and nature of nuclear program, placed big responsibility on the shoulder of the state. Sorry. Yeah. So, for instance, for regulation, safety, human capacity building, financing, international commitment, you name it. So yeah, a nuclear program, is not just another energy project to be outsourced. So this is actually a recipe for a failure. It requires a full involvement of the state. And last but not least, my fourth point for the takeaway is more actually it's the more crucial one is that yes, the journey is long, but you're not alone, and you can walk it with the other stakeholders. So we've been in your shoes. The vendor countries have been in your shoes. The IAEA can provide also support, as stressed and explained by Mr. Payer. The technology vendor, as I said, we have extensive experience to share, and also amongst your peer, the other country in the region share the same concerns, share the same challenges as well. So it would be great if you could tackle some issue together, whether it's developing a skill force, harmonizing regulation, building public confidence. This is definitely those topics can be or of course developing supply chain with the key enablers. So this is definitely a key topic that need to be tackled in a jointly manner, and that's the main conclusion of my takeaway.
Thank you very much, Laurent. That's fantastic. It's a very elaborate takeaway, but we more or less in sync with everybody else here. That's the important thing. Let me now pass it on to Director Lee from KHNP. What your thoughts are?
I think I talk about Korea's situation. The long-term energy mix policy is very important. Because as I mentioned in the presentation, the renewable is just 10%, but our goal is to reduce carbon-free energy. Then the renewable must be rise up. So right now, our three main energy sources is nuclear and gas, natural gas, and fossil. But 10 or 20 years later, the two things. First one is renewables, and the second is nuclear. That's because the intermittency can be resolved. So the nuclear is a great option for harmonizing with the renewables with carbon-free. So that's our government plan. So it's very important thing. So our nuclear industry in Korea. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Director Lee. Let me now come to more or less the regulator, IAEA. And what your thoughts are in terms of what you can take away from, not what they can take away from.
Yes, thank you. Well, I'm not a regulator, and the IAEA is not a regulator, but I think we had a very long and good, informative discussion this afternoon. I think we heard there was long-term commitment, marriage, marathon, and for sure. For sure, embarking on a nuclear program is a long process, and but we, the nuclear stakeholders and community, can provide guidelines. There is experience to be shared among all the participants here, the countries that have nuclear technology, that have operated nuclear technologies. We have new partners, the financial institutions like multilateral development banks. So really, this is a good time, I would say, to consider the option and use all the tools. It will take time to prepare, and I would say the better you prepare, the higher chance that your program will be successful, that it will run safely and efficiently. Yes, it will be expensive, but I would say it's an investment into the future. We see the energy world becoming more complex, but we know we will need more electricity. Data centers are an important role in tomorrow's digital economy. So put all your chances on your side, prepare well, and I think as Laurent Favre's presentation showed, there were benefits for France that embarked in a very massive program for sure. So yes, investment into the future.
Thank you very much, Henri. Yeah, even though you are not a regulator, we look up to you to guide us how to move forward. So in that sense, you are fulfilling the objectives of a regulator. So let me now go the last but not least, what we can do, what is the message today we can give the audience to take away as a financier from our side?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to say a big thank you to all the esteemed panelists who have contributed a lot to the discussion. And actually, I learned a lot from today's session. Just stepping back a bit, we are talking about nuclear technology, nuclear energy, but this is one of the options in the broader energy sector. And energy sector is really now supporting the economy, and energy security, energy resilience is basically economic security, economic resilience. And also when we talk about sustainability, it's the whole society's sustainability. And ADB has a lot of engagement with our member countries through various channels. So probably our strengths would be to be able to contextualize the nuclear energy in these broader contexts. And our DMCs, maybe approached or offered many options. And also there are a lot of requirements coming from IAEA. These are a bit overwhelming. If you're not sure, you can come to us and we can probably discuss with you, how you should go. Of course, we are not an expert, but we are a partner with you, and we are just 60 years old, but hope will be here longer, so we can walk along with you to complete the journey of nuclear energy. Thank you.
Thank you, DG Hide. Thank you very much for all these interventions from the panel. Let me now open the floor for the questions, please. Yes, please. Use the mic over there.
Thanks, Priyanka. My question is for Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I'm Augustine Antoine. I'm chief trainer at the Singapore Media Academy. I work with government agencies and private sector. So the addition of Singapore to the Part 810 list of generally authorized destinations You got the 123 agreement on front-end uranium enrichment and back-end fuel reprocessing. But you've also got strict U.S. export controls. So how does the DOE plan to guarantee Singapore relying on U.S. controlled tech, and how is this going to work in Singapore's favor? I mean, I'll be very specific. I looked up the IEA.gov. The SMR projects in the U.S. are all in the early phase, highly constrained supply for the high assay, low enrichment uranium fuel, the HALO fuel. So realistically, how do you see U.S. DOE positioning itself to help Singapore transition past the feasibility study into the actual deployment by 2040? By then, I'll be 80 years old. And since you said it's the long game, or is the U.S. exporting a technology roadmap when its own domestic commercial market is also facing challenges to scale things up? Thank you so much.
Yeah, please.
Sure. Thank you. So that's a lot of issues, but I'll try to parse them a little bit. So from the perspective of the Department of Energy, in terms of being able to provide any country that decides on an SMR technology that comes from the United States, the Department of Energy has spent hundreds of millions and billions of dollars to ensure that we in the United States will be developing the full fuel cycle, so that those resources will be available here. We have several companies that we've given awards to that are looking at LEU and HALO production in the United States and developing advanced technologies that would allow them to produce, to supply the folks that buy their smaller reactors. We're also actively working with partners around the world, particularly our Japanese and Korean countries, on supply chains. A number of our small modular reactor companies like NuScale have already put in orders for the heavy castings with Doosan and Korean companies. So we are actively encouraging that. We in the United States recognize that we are not going to be able to provide everything in the nuclear supply chain, and we're going to have to work with our partner countries around the world. And that obviously includes the supply chain that we've talked about with IHI and KHNP. We also work with partner countries around the world to build nuclear reactors. Right now, we're looking at a CANDU reactor that will be built in Romania, but it will be a CANDU design, and it will be built by an American company. And there are lots of options like that too. So the U.S. is committed to getting the work done and committed to partnerships to do that. And we're making the investment in the United States right now so that we can support the deployment of these reactors if countries should choose their U.S. reactors. And so I honestly have to tell you, the U.S. is putting their money where their mouth is. And we are working very hard. We are introducing a variety of new programs that allow for companies to actually build their first-of-a-kind reactor on a Department of Energy or a federal campus, where they can have direct access to our experts at our laboratories, so that we can make the process go faster and smoother, and we can ensure the safety and security there. So there are a number of programs that have been embarked upon that are continuing, particularly with this administration, I have to say, that are really advancing the viability of commercially available SMRs in the mid-2030s.
Thank you very much, Beth, for answering that, and that's really encouraging. And any other questions coming from the audience? Yeah, please.
Thank you very much for the insightful discussion. Just a query that I'm from Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power, India. Query is that whether we should go for the solar, wind first, and then is there any direct answer, and then nuclear, or should we go along with the nuclear also? Because nuclear is a finite kind of thing. It's not a renewable. Uranium is finite thing. So
anybody who would like to take that question? Yeah, Henri? Yeah, you are energy planner.
So you're basically asking about solar or solar nuclear, given maybe limited resources on.
Because solar renewable energy.
Yeah.
Wind is also renewable energy, and this nuclear is not theoretically not renewable energy because uranium is finite thing.
Yes. So my organization, the IEA, together with the OECD NEA, publishes every two years, more or less, a book called the Red Book on uranium resources. And basically, there are different categories of uranium depending on the cost of extracting. And I think there is enough. I mean, the message is that there is enough uranium, let's say, for the next 50 to 100 years, but there would be a need to initiate new exploration, new mining, to get access to more resources. But you have to remember also that the cost of uranium is actually a small fraction of the overall cost of nuclear electricity generation. So it's very different from fossil technologies where the fuel is an important part of the cost of generation. But that's with talking about, I would say, light water reactors once through uranium cycles. But there are advanced reactors, fast neutron reactors with multi-recycling of the fuel. And this basically gives countries a factor of 60 in terms of amount of electricity that could be generated from the same amount of uranium. So there are different technologies. You're from India, also there's work on thorium cycles. So there's a lot of innovation still to be developed. So maybe nuclear is not a renewable technology in the sense that you mentioned, but we believe it's sustainable. And the industry knows how to manage the whole life cycle, the whole fuel cycle up to the final disposal.
Thank you, Henri. Thank you very much for that answer. Just to add to that, at the time we were studying nuclear engineering, for all practical purposes, we used to consider that as renewable. Why? We were looking at the amount of resources available and the amount of energy it can be generated is almost like renewable. So we considered that as renewable at the time. I don't want to open that debate here, but that's how we used to look at it. And other questions? There were, yes, please.
I'm Reza. I'm based in the Philippines, and my question is for Yusek Guevara. You mentioned in your presentation earlier that the DOE's target is 1,200 megawatts of nuclear by 2032, with construction date starting 2028. How realistic is this target, considering the timeline to build nuclear? Typically, for large nuclear plants, it's 7 to 10 years, and then this would be like first of its kind for the Philippines. So, considering these really tight target, I must say. Is DOE considering moving your timelines as regards nuclear? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Our starting for the 10 years is not today. It was about 3-4 years ago. So the 4 years are already gone. So 10 years would be 6 years from now. So that's 2032. So it is still a realistic plan. However, the difference for the Philippines is that the nuclear power plant investment will be by the private sector. There was mention from France that nuclear power plants are sovereign undertaking. But in the Philippines, because of our Electric Power Industry Reform Act, it's a little bit different. So that is the more difficult part for the Department of Energy. Of how are we going to do this, given that the investments are going to come from the private sector? But based on the INER, the 19 things that we need to comply with, we are on track. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other questions from the audience? Any burning ones? Okay, so we are doing pretty well. Any other interventions the panel would like to bring in? We have about 3-4 minutes before I conclude. Anything burning which you can share with the audience? Beth, Rowena?
We've said it all.
Okay, good, excellent. So the message is very clear. The nuclear technology is important as in the decarbonization process that we have to accept. And at the same time, we have to keep in mind it's a long-term marriage, a tough one. And you have to be prepared. And before the technology comes into on the ground, you need to prepare yourself, human resource, and the institutional mechanism, the institutional capacity will have to be developed. Then you have to look at other safety and safeguard related issues very carefully. So you have to prepare yourself a lot. And also it's very country specific. Your country may or may not need nuclear power. It depends on a lot of technical things, whether the power system size is good enough, whether you really need it. If you are blessed with let's say lots of hydropower, probably you may not look at nuclear in the short medium term. So there are all sorts of things. What is important to take away is that it's a very important technology in the decarbonization process. It should be one of the technology options you need to consider in your energy planning, and you should not exclude it. We used to exclude it all the time, but now you have to consider that as one of the important. So we are talking about all of the above, which is a very important thing to do as planners. So with that message, keeping in mind it's a long-term marriage, let's conclude. Let me thank all the panelists for the excellent presentations and very good discussion at the end. Thank you. Thank you very much.